Dalton says he will sign the executive order before he goes to bed tonight because area localities cannot settle the water dispute and an obvious emergency exists.
I'm very much disappointed that the matter was not worked out. I don't have any question in my mind, but that an emergency does exist here.
The governor became convinced he had to issue the executive order after he flew over the depleted reservoirs and then took a walking tour of one of the main reservoirs, Lake Burnt Mill, which is 19 feet below normal level. The executive order allows Suffolk and Isle of Wight to grant use permits without first holding scheduled public hearings on November 5th. That would allow the drilling of wells to begin immediately on property Norfolk owns in those localities. Attorney General Marshall Coleman, who accompanied the governor, says there is no precedent for Dalton's action. However, he says this is a most unusual situation.
So it's the first time. It's an extraordinary step, but this is an extraordinary occasion.
Meantime, Norfolk officials are delighted.
The governor's decision today is highly satisfying to us.
The governor says if Suffolk and Isle of Wight County refuse to grant the use permits within the next 48 hours, he will take further action to ensure the drilling begins next week, because he says he will not allow 600,000 people who live in this area to run out of water. Mike Deason, Area 10 Eyewitness News, Norfolk. The governor contends he did his part to end the water crisis last week when he signed an emergency order to drill the wells after touring the Norfolk reservoirs that are located in Suffolk and Isle of Wight County. Dalton says his executive order will get the wells dug, but it won't determine the ownership of the underground water. And he says the ball is now in the lap of Norfolk City Council.
I personally don't understand why somebody here, preferably in Norfolk City Council, hasn't filed for a declaratory judgment on that question.
Meantime, Norfolk Mayor Vincent Thomas agrees that the matter will have to be settled in court, but he says the city just doesn't have enough time to wait for the outcome of a lawsuit.
Unfortunately, those processes take a long time, and we don't have the luxury of that time right now.
However, Dalton is not sympathetic to Thomas's position, and he says Norfolk had better take action quickly.
If Norfolk wants water now, if it's the emergency that I thought it was and that they have indicated to me that it was, they should go on and work something out to get the wells dug, the pumps running, and get the reservoirs refilled.
Although everyone agrees that the wells must be dug immediately, Norfolk is concerned that if it allows Suffolk to drill the wells, it will compromise the city's water position in years to come. So the Norfolk Legal Department is now busy at work trying to come up with a way to have the courts force the wells to be dug immediately and then decide the ownership of the wells at some future date after the current crisis is over. Mike Deason, Area 10 Eyewitness News, Norfolk.